بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. Yasin. These are one of the miracles of the Quran, and none but Allah knows their meaning. By the Quran full of wisdom, truly you are one of the messengers on the straight path, sent down by the Almighty, the Most Merciful, in order that you may warn a people whose forefathers were not warned, so they are heedless. Indeed, the word of punishment has proved true against most of them, so they will not believe. Verily, we have put on their necks iron collars reaching to their chins, so their necks are raised up. And we have put a barrier before them and a barrier behind them, and we have covered them up so they cannot see. It is the same to them whether you warn them or warn them not, they will not believe. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad.
Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. زندہ سے جب رہا ہوئے سادات کربلا تمہارے لپٹ کے قبر سکینہ پہ دی صدا اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا چھوٹی سی تربت پیمانے کہا اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا زندہ سے جاتا ہے اب قافلہ اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا مجھے شاہزادی تمہاری قسم نہ رکھوں گی زندہ سے باہر قدم سفر کی اب ہوتی ہے تیاریاں ہماری میں بیٹھے ہے اہل حرم غربت کا میری تمہیں واسطہ اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا وہ پہلے کی جیسی تو غربت نہیں اے بی بی ہماری وہ حالت نہیں تمہیں شامیوں سے اب اے میری جان کفن مانگنے کی ضرورت نہیں، لو مل گئی ہے تمہاری ردا، اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا، مجھے یاد اصغر کی ہے بے کسی، لحد سے وہ میت نکالی گئی، اکیلے میں رہنے نہ دوگی تمہیں، بھروسہ نہیں شامیوں کا کوئی، رہتے ہیں چاروں طرف اشکیا، اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا، اٹھو سکینہ چلے کربلا، بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات، اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد.
Jazakallah Brother Ayan for that beautiful recitation. Inshallah, before we invite Syed Asad Jafri to invite the Mu'mineen, I wanted to go over a couple quick program announcements. Inshallah, Maulana Syed Asad Jafri will be addressing us tonight and tomorrow night, as well as next week, Friday night and Saturday night. Inshallah, I also want to bring up, if you wanted to sponsor any of the programs, please contact us at programs@cfkdfw.org or contact Brother Mazhar Abbas at 972-880-1112 or Sister Minaz Abbas at 972-814-4000. Inshallah, this Saturday, September 26th at 4 p.m., we will have the annual City of Knowledge Kids Majlis for ages 8 to 13. We'll have a lecture and Q&A session with Sheikh Mehdi Rastani featuring the Sakar Wafa recitation group. Our host will be, inshallah, Brother Syed bin Hal Rizvi. For registration of Surah Yasin, Marsiya, Noha, Ziyarat, please text or call Sister Asiya Raza at 678-735-2817. The Zoom link will be sent in the DFW WhatsApp chats. Also wanted to talk about the registration for the free flu shot drive, inshallah, we'll be having for ages 5 to 64 years old. This is highly recommended. We'll also have a separated section for hijab protocol. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Dr. Noreen Agha at noreenaghamd@gmail.com or Sister Minaz Abbas. We will have more information about this in the CFK WhatsApp. The date is September 27 from 3 to 4:30 p.m. With that, please help me invite Maulana Syed Asad Jafri with a loud salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتحدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن وثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الذين جاهدوا فينا لنهدينهم سبلنا وإن الله لمع المحسنين صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Let me first of all express my honor and my privilege to be with all of you, my beloved City of Knowledge community in Dallas, for the next 2 nights, inshallah. And while it would have been an honor for me to be there live and in person with all of you, inshallah, one day, someday, when all this settles, we can meet in person once again. I am with you for the next 2 nights, and while exploring a massive topic in 2 nights may not be recommended or possible, I do like to have a little bit of a theme, even if it's a 2-part mini discussion. Inshallah, next weekend as well, I am with you. You're stuck with me for 2 weekends. And that weekend we'll have a different topic. This weekend we'll have a different topic. Let me first of all lay a little bit of the groundwork of what I want to talk about with all of you this weekend. As many of you know, I was born and raised in Toronto, went through my childhood, went through my public school, my high school, my university life, my corporate life, all here in Toronto. I went late in my life to the Hawza. I didn't arrive in Qom until the late 20s, so I had already graduated, I got married, I had a few years of corporate Canada under my belt, and I was always one of the elder ones inside of my classes in Qom. I come from a very typical immigrant family. My father and my mother migrated from Karachi in early 70s in Pakistan, from Pakistan to here, and they've been here ever since. And so growing up in a typical Pakistani, Karachi immigrant family, one of 4 siblings, the deen was presented to me back then. We're talking about, when I began my teenage years, and talking about early 90s, mid 90s, into, of course, the late 90s and early 2000s. And the presentation of the deen for me was always a set of rituals in a language that I didn't understand. Yes, I went to Sunday school like we all do, 1 hour a week in possibly a language that I understood. The Thursday night programs, all of the different waladats and shahadats, sitting through all the poetry and all that shari that now, of course, I absolutely enjoy and love. Back then, of course, it was simply, just a chance to sit with my friends and maybe, enjoy a piece of candy that some kid might be passing around during the actual session. The deen was always presented to me as a set of rules, halal and haram, jaiz and najaiz. God was presented to me as a God of fear, a God that will crush your bones in the grave, a God that will hang you, a God that will scorpions in the grave and fire pits waiting for you in the hereafter. I didn't have always the most knowledgeable madrasa teachers. I mean, how could I expect that to happen? These were volunteer men and volunteer women when I was a younger age that would spend an hour of their time on Sunday trying to teach me the deen in their own sort of way. So I've seen all that. And the reason why I tell you that is because my next 2 discussions are not only coming from the knowledge of the deen, but coming from an immense amount of experience. And I want to speak a little bit about the state of our youth today. When I say youth, I'm going to be very broad to say anywhere from early teens, 13, 14, all the way until mid to late 20s. There are some amazing things that I see happening right now. There are some very troubling things I'm seeing right now. This Muharram now, I have had the chance now to virtually speak with a number of different groups across the continent. Here in Toronto, I've been to a couple of live sessions in people's backyards, 6 feet apart, of course. And there seems to be a common theme amongst those youth who are struggling to find the deen. And I want to address those issues this weekend. At the same time, I want a lot of us to understand, a lot of us who are now older. I have a daughter who's a year away from becoming a teenager, and the thought of that gives me shivers. But now I am in that boat, where for the longest time I thought that I was a young guy until these hairs became white, and now I realize that, wait a second, now you're a father of a teenager. And so I have a lot to say this weekend, and I'm going to use the fact that I've earned my stripes with the Dallas community. A lot of you who are listening to me, you know me from frequenting Dallas. I was there last year, of course, and previous years at other centers in the DFW area. And so, having said that, having now, of course, built that sort of, that formality is no longer there. There's no takallufat, as you say in Urdu. There's a little bit of not understanding. I don't need to, rebuild the building all over again. All of you understand where I'm coming from. So hopefully what I say this weekend is not going to be taken as anything but love and compassion and from a very endearing place in my heart. Let's first understand the maqam and the level of the youth inside of the Deen of Islam. And this is not just for young guys who might be listening to me. This is, of course, for parents of young people. This is for elders inside the community. This is for the ulama, the scholars, the leaders of, let's say, the Dallas community. This is for madrasa teachers. This is for Sunday school principals. This is for youth leaders. This is for the presidents of all of the different boards inside of the Dallas area, etc., etc. It's one thing how to live your life as a youth. It's one thing how to motivate a youth as well. Up and down the Quran, up and down the ahadith and the traditions and the sunnah of the Holy Prophet, there is a emphasis on the young, on the youth. I'll share with you a couple of stories. All of you have heard these stories before, and they are just simply reminders for all of you. I don't have mind-blowing content like Sheikh Mehdi does, nor am I a philosopher like Sheikh Mehdi is, but I am just, a simple admi, a simple man who just talks from the heart with all of you. I talk with you, I talk to you, I don't talk at you. Knowing full well that I am the one who needs the most advice. So as I say oftentimes, I'm talking to myself up here. All of you, of course, are just simply eavesdropping on my conversation with myself. How dare you? Let's first start off with how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects the youth. The very, very quick story of the people of the cave, the Ashab al-Kahf. Surah 18 of the Holy Quran talks about this story very beautifully. And a very, very quick summary. I don't have much time. I don't have time for muqaddamas or introductory discussions in 2 nights and a 45-minute speech both nights. So I have to jump right in. Inshallah, you will. Stay with me. I'll try to go as slow as possible while being fast at the same time. You'll get me, inshallah. These are young guys now, 3, 4, 5, 7, some say. Numbers are not important at this moment. These are young people, of course, who reject the way of the ruling class of that time. The dictator, the government, the leaders of society who were oppressive towards their people, who were idol worshippers, of course, and who worshiped themselves as well. Okay. With a lot of courage and a lot of himmat, these young people, these young individuals, simply rejected the way of the government of that time. They were young, and back then, like today sometimes, the young are considered foolish and the elders are considered wise. And so sometimes, the same way sometimes that we kind of, disregard the action of the youth, or we reject the call of the youth, or sometimes we simply see them as people who are overly emotional and foolish and insensitive and unwise. Back then it was even more so. The reality is that they were probably the only ones in that whole entire society that had a half a brain and half an intellect on their shoulders. Now, they were told by many of their elders and their close ones that do not disrupt this government, and do not speak out against the leader, and this is going to cause a lot of problems for you. But sometimes when you see the truth, you simply can't move away from it. I'm reminded of the story of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. Very quickly, I don't mean to steer off from this story. I'll come back to this story. Let's jump to another scene. And Nabi Musa alayhi salam now has this day of festival, right? That's the day that Musa and Fir'aun agreed to have this showdown between the vetted magicians of Fir'aun and Musa and Harun. when that entire moment happened, that very epic historical moment happened, where Nabi Musa's serpent devoured hundreds, if not at least minimum 100 of those snakes, the vetted magicians that were really, that were really truly chosen ones of Pharaoh, that Pharaoh had all the confidence in the world for, they at that moment declared that they believe in the Rabb of Musa and Harun. That, of course, made Pharaoh lose it. He, very openly in the Quran now, it's a very vivid verse of the Quran. He talks about what he would do to those people who would believe in this. The story says that he would cut off one side of the arm and the opposing side of the leg. So the right arm, the left leg, the left arm, and the right leg, and then tie them to a trunk of a tree, let them bleed out. A very torturous way to take someone's life. And he presented that threat to these magicians who had this newly found faith. Their response is incredible. You can do whatever you want to us, he says. They say. We cannot unsee what we saw. We saw the truth. We saw haqq in front of us. Right? You do whatever you want to do. If you want to chop us into pieces, you can do whatever you want. Now, I'm paraphrasing now. Do whatever you want. But you cannot force us to unsee what we saw. Okay? Jump now back to Ashab Kahf. These young people now have this strong belief now, in front of a tyrant of their time, and they're told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take refuge into the cave. Now the question is, where did this heart come from? Where is it that they they had this strength inside of them? And the belief has to be there is a guiding power, there is a leading power, there is a wilayi power, a power over them, a guardianship almost over them, that has given them this strength. And the Quran says, وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ إِذْ قَامُوا فَقَالُوا رَبُّنَا رَبُّ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Right? Allah says, we are the ones. Allah says, وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ. We are the ones that grabbed their hearts and protected their hearts. رَبَطَ, we tied it, we secured it. When what? إِذْ قَامُوا, when they rose up and they said, رَبُّنَا رَبُّ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Our Rabb is the Rabb of the heavens and the earth. We don't call out to your idols. They're saying that now in front of the tyrant of their time, in front of an audience. That takes a lot of guts to go against the norms of that society and stand up firm, albeit you being one of 3, 7, 5, whatever the Quran talks about. The Quran says that number isn't important. 3, 5, or 7 even says. There might be a dog in there, might not be a dog in there. It doesn't matter about the actual characters of the story. What matters is that these young individuals now stood up against that oppression and that oppressor. And Allah says, I came in, and when they showed me a hint of their courage, I came in and did the rest. I gave them their voice. I gave them their strength, right? I tied their hearts. I secured their hearts. I prevented their hearts from crumbling and breaking and shattering into pieces. The same verse is used when it comes to the heart of the mother of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. Again, I ask my moms out there, young moms, old moms, grandmothers, doesn't matter. Mothers have a special heart that fathers don't have. The comparison is not even close inside the deen. Mothers are 3 times higher than fathers are, right? We don't have Jannah under our feet. We have shoes under our feet. But the mothers have, تحت أقدامها, under their feet is of course Jannah. Anyways, when the mother of Musa now, and all of you know the story, the birth of a newborn son at a time when newborn sons were being picked off and targeted by Pharaoh. This secret birth, some reports say that the nurse, or I forget the word now. There's a word that they use for people who help out with the birth, and I know a lot of you are screaming at me through the screen. It's this, Syed Asad. I don't remember that word, but the one who helped Nabi Musa's mom give birth, she had to report the gender to Fir'aun's men who were waiting outside, and when she saw the face of Nabi Musa, her heart couldn't bear to tell them it's a boy, because they knew full well that they would come and they would take that boy away. So they said she simply brought a bloody shirt and said that it was a miscarriage. Meanwhile, the mother of Nabi Musa now, right? Musa, there was a wahi now, right? To take him, run to the river, and place him in the basket. فَأَلْقِهِ فِي الْيَمِّ, the Quran says, and place him in the basket, kind of throw him down the basket and down the river. Now imagine now a mother's heart, okay? This is not a ma'suma. Even if it was a ma'suma, even if let's say the Fatima, for example, the heart doesn't change. The heart of the mom is the heart of the mother. Her only question to her father, the Holy Prophet, when Imam Hussein was born, was that who will cry for my son? That's it. That's the heart of a mother. She pushes this newborn boy, has no clue what's going to happen to him, right? Will the basket flip? Will the sanduk flip? Will the animal absorb, capture that baby? Will he jump, for example? Will the rush of the water now flip? No idea, right? And there comes a moment the Quran captures very beautifully where this sanduk, this chest, this kind of like, this nest or this, basket, let's say, for example, that's carrying the son of the mother of Nabi Musa, it comes out of sight. And some reports say that the sister of Nabi Musa chased the basket down the river. Some say the mother did herself. There came a moment where she couldn't see the basket. It became visible to her. That's when she panicked. And the Quran says, just when she's about to scream out, that's my son, وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَىٰ قَلْبِهَا. We grabbed her heart, وَرَبَطَا. We secured it. We protected it. We strengthened it. Same verse used for those youth who are standing up against a tyrant of their time. Allah says, we're the ones that give them that strength to stand up and say, our Lord is the Lord, رَبُّ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. The reason why I bring this story up, and there are several that inshallah in the span of these 2 nights now I will share with you later on, but this one story, the reason why I bring this up, the reason why God brings this up, forget me, in an entire surah named Kahf, is because he was almost sending a message to the young guys out there, a lot of my youth out there, to let them know that, look, you have all the tools to lead this community and this society to righteousness. My belief is that this millennial generation that gets hammered sometimes, it really does, is a generation that can change the world. And it is right now. It is right now. What's happening right now in your country, in the U.S., when it comes to this racial system right now, is incredible to see. It's sad to see. It breaks the heart. It angers a lot of us inside of us to see, for example, what's happening and what isn't happening to Breonna Taylor, for example, and the fact that those cops weren't indicted, for example. To see, of course, George Floyd. To see, of course, so many others, right? And to see these athletes like the NBA players, like like LeBron and Chris Paul and all these other individuals, Stephen A. Smith, all these guys using that platform now to make this issue now more aware. The reality is that this level of change, this level of protest hasn't happened, some say, in a very long time, to this degree. A lot of it is this young generation, a lot of it is the system that they have kind of used around them, the social media vibe, to get the word out. Now, there is a lot of potential there. Because the reality is that, look, if you look at history now and the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet, the Prophet recognized this at a very, very early stage in his prophethood, that one of the key groups in the success of this deen of Islam in this era of Jahiliyyah are the young people. One of the key groups. The very first group to gravitate towards the Holy Prophet were the young, because their hearts are susceptible towards truth, towards righteousness, towards piety. Their hearts are readily accepting of that. Okay? You don't need to convince them, unless, of course, there's an ego there. I'll get to that, of course, if not today, then tomorrow. Unless there's an ego there, the heart is open for truth. The moment it smells truth, it says, come in. The moment it tastes piety, it says, come in. If there's a veil of ego, the veil of anger, the veil of jadedness, the veil of desire, all those need to be removed. Then, of course, there's this opening of the heart. The Prophet now recognized that. That's why the Prophet, if you look at the way he strategized the entire prophethood, he would give sometimes the most difficult responsibilities to sometimes the youngest. And sometimes he would allow the youngest people to have the most historic moments in Islamic history. Be it the first muballigh of the deen going to Abyssinia, Jafri al-Tayyar, who's in his early 20s. The first mu'addin of Islam after Fateh Mecca, the conquest of Mecca, is Bilal Habashi, 18 years old. Amir al-Mu'minin, up and down the wars of Medina was in his 20s. Up and down. All those great fada'il points that we hear, Badr and Uhud and Khandaq and Khaybar, all of that, Imam Ali was in his 20s. Remember, Ghadir, he was 33. Ghadir happened in the 11th year of Hijri. Okay? So all these wars in the 3rd and the 4th and the 7th and the 8th, all of those, of course, Imam Ali was in his 20s. That's the prime of his youth. Right? You're looking, for example, and again, a lot of you have heard this history before, but think about it now in the context of our discussion tonight. The only problem that anybody had with the announcement on Ghadir of Man kunta mawla fahada aliyun mawla was the fact that Imam Ali was too young in their eyes to lead this entire empire. Remember, like I talked about, old is wise, young is foolish, and emotional. Void of the intellect. So along now comes this 33-year-old, is handed this empire by a 63-year-old and a holy prophet. 30 years, of course, was the difference. And the seniors back then had an immense problem with that. But the Prophet had already laid out a sunnah and established a certain precedent that I don't care about the date of birth on their passport. I worry about the state of their heart. If they prove to me that they're able to handle this responsibility, I'm going to give it to them. And such a lesson for a lot of us in our communities, in our centers, how we run our centers. It's about high time that we give the youth a chance. Now, don't hate me just yet, my elders. A lot of you will sit down and say, wait a second, Malana, we try, but they don't take that responsibility. And that's absolutely correct, and it is an accepted argument. Okay? But I do think that we sometimes need to move past this idea that our youth are good for taking out the garbage and folding up the dastakhan and serving the rice during the month of Ramadan. I think that it's high time now that we put them at the decision-making table and allow them now to change the vision and the progress and the journey of our community and give them a chance. If that means that we fall flat a little bit, then so be it. But you're empowering them in the process. Now, all of that is there. Okay, we have the verses of the Quran, Surah Kahf and the story. We have the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet. Now, let's come to reality. And I'm going to come at you guys now. And remember, endearing, loving, compassionate, smile, LOL, beautiful emoji face, smile face, all those, lots of teeth. Okay, this is where I have a problem now with today's youth. Yes, granted, I think that a lot of times them growing up, they were introduced to a God of fear. Okay? They were introduced to the idea of crushing bones in the grave. They were introduced to God through Scorpios in their grave. They were introduced to God through castles of fire in their hellfire. They were introduced to God stripping them of their risk, not accepting their amal. There's no point in doing all that. God won't even accept it. All of those things were very common in a household where that's how we were introduced to God. I'm generalizing. A lot of you may not have gone through that, but I think, and maybe I'm wrong, a typical immigrant family going through that process. Now you add a couple of more ingredients to this dish. Number one, you add, let's say, an angry Sunday school teacher who would scream and yell at me if I got something wrong, right? If my qafs weren't qaf and my ha's weren't ha's and my ayns weren't ayns, he would, sometimes we had one case, a couple of cases in our local community of a ruler being smacked on someone's hand, for example, or just flat out embarrassment, wouldn't know the person's name, would scream at them or yell at them or call them all sorts of names. Are you okay? Does your mind work, right? Are you a child? Embarrassment, right? Every Sunday, the kids being dragged there out of their bed on Sunday mornings. On top of that, they come across this angry volunteer teacher. That's number one. Number two. Number three, maybe they caught a visiting scholar who was in a bad mood, let's say, for example, or snapped at them, or didn't give them the answer that they wanted. Not me, of course. I mean, I'm never angry. I'm just a happy-go-lucky guy. But I remember there was one case where one guy told me, that I asked this question to this sheikh or this scholar, and his answer was ridiculous, so it turned me off from asking ulama altogether. I have this one child, this one youth now comes to me, true story, says to me that I was praying the salat one time. One of my parents were watching me from a distance, and they saw that maybe I didn't do things 100% right, or maybe I read the salat too fast. They came into the room and they blasted me, saying there's no point. Just don't do any good. There's no point in you wearing hijab. There's no point in you helping out in the center. There's no point in you volunteering at this soup kitchen, or that who is Hussein, or that group, or this group, whatever the case may be, if your salat and namaz is improper. If that's how you're praying namaz, do God a favor and don't pray namaz altogether, and slam the door as she stormed out of her room. Okay? Complaints about a horrible community, right? All they worry about is Urdu, 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 right? So their speaker is Urdu, everything is Urdu. I get judgment at the center, right? All these aunties ask me, why aren't I pregnant yet if I'm married? Why have I gained weight, for example? Why are you tanning? No one's going to marry somebody who's tanned, right? So the shadeism now exists in our communities, right? This entire idea, this entire concept of if I wear a certain color the wrong way, if my hair is funky, maybe a couple of holes in my face, I get glares, kiska beta, whose son is this? All this kind of thing. All of this, guys, all this mirchi, masala, namak, this, that, adrak, and lesan, and haldi, and all these ingredients inside of a typical Desi Indian Pakistani dish, all of that is there, and all of that breeds the fact that, you know what, I'm angry at Islam. I'm angry at Islam. I don't want to worship God because he wants to crush my bones. I don't want to read the Quran because I have flashbacks of my knuckles getting smacked because my ghain wasn't ghain from your, I don't want to step foot inside any center because of the looks and the questions. And, I get judged on how I feed my kids and what snack I give my kids during the majlis. And the fact that I bring a coloring book and maybe a device because my kid cannot keep their attention longer than 10 seconds. So they remind me, the aunties, that, in our time, we didn't have any coloring books, no toys, 1,000 snacks, no, nothing. Aajkal ki maahein jo hain, today's mothers, after a while, forget it. And I'm not here to address those people. I'm not. I'm here to address the youth. And my humble request is, let it go. Throw it all away. Just stop living, in your grade 4 Dinyat class. Stop now with this one exchange you had with one scholar. Of all the scholars that came in through Dallas, that one scholar in Muharram of 2011 gave me a horrible answer to my question. Now every time any scholar comes into either a CFK or anywhere else, I glare at them and say, oh, they're all alike, man. They're all built from one cloth. Because after a while, it smells like it's a cop-out. And I'll call you guys out. You guys are a very bold generation, right? And if you want to be a bold generation, you got to be able to take it while you dish it. You're very bold. For example, if I say something on the member at CFK that somebody won't like, I'm bound to hear it. All this Muharram, the amount of hate mail I've gotten, mashallah, is phenomenal. I've been called a misogynist. I've been called backward. I've been called a disappointment. I've been called somebody who is using the member as a comedy routine. I've been called all sorts of things. Half an alim because I don't have the imam on my head. Oh, all this hate mail is there. It's there. It's part of the game. Right? It's part of the process. No problem. You say Alhamdulillah, and every exchange, every ounce of feedback is always good. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the fact that after a while, you need to now stop using these as crutches. And understand that when you do enter that next world, and this is all about the next world now, when you do enter that next world, your grade 4 Dinya teacher, that scholar who gave you the wrong answer, the auntie who always looks at how I dress and how I treat my kids, for example, that one uncle that's always yelling at me, all of them are not going to be with me in the next world. They're not. Nor are those excuses going to fly in that world. Let it go, man. Heal. Just forget about it. It's not worth throwing your entire journey away for those experiences. Easier said than done? Absolutely. But stop. I feel like sometimes we're okay with the fact that, oh, I have every excuse in the book to be at the level of faith that I'm at. And for everything else, we upgrade. If I don't know, for example, the latest iOS 14 in Apple, I will Google it and find out. If I don't know how to match my watch to my phone, I sit there and I'll watch YouTube videos, right? I know one guy who bought a barbecue this summer. He watched 11 different YouTube videos on how to barbecue chicken. When to flip it over, how to use a thermometer, for example, how to know it's there, how to make sure the outside is crispy and the inside is juicy. 11 different YouTube videos. But not one YouTube video to somehow convert the God of fear into a God of love. Why? Because of some grade 4 Dinyat Bachara uncle who's volunteering his time. Or some parents who simply presented to you God the way that God was presented to them when they were growing up. Remove the crutches. Own up. Take responsibility for your own faith. Okay? Let's stop shoving our deficiencies onto somebody else. I'd much rather say that I don't have the tawfiq or the understanding or the patience or the knowledge to be a better believer. That I would rather say to myself than to say because of an encounter I had 15 years ago, that's why I'm in the state of piety that I am in now. Nobody would buy that. In fact, people would laugh at you and say, dude, seriously, man? 15 years ago? Are you serious? It's like saying you're a failure at work because your grade 6 teacher said you'll amount to nothing. And Mr. Weatherby in grade 6 was absolutely right. And here I am, a 38-year-old male, a jobless, deadbeat father, because, hey, Mr. Weatherby said so. That stuck in my head. How about we prove Mr. Weatherby wrong? How about we say, okay, that's one instance. Was there no one else who sat there and told you? Were there no other scholars who sat there and told you you are at the prime of your life? Let's stop clutching for excuses and let's own up and say, God, I know I should be A, B, and C. I don't have it in me. I need your help in this. Maybe I wasn't raised in a very pious family. Maybe I had a broken home, an abusive parent. Maybe I lived in some remote village in the northern of Texas where there was nothing there. Who knows? Right? Maybe I had a lot of social anxiety. I couldn't come to the center. There's a lot of people who can't leave their homes. Maybe I had sad, seasonal depression. I don't know. And you know, I'm not downplaying any of that. Those are legitimate reasons. But let's not be individuals who sit there and say, I am the way I am, not because of me. I'm good. If it wasn't for A, B, C, and D, I would have been Mr. Piety, Captain Islam, Mrs. Muhajjaba. No. Sorry, man. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Because what we do realize is with Islam comes restrictions. With Islam comes limitations. This fantasy of freedom is just that, it's a fantasy. Animalistic freedom. We want to, for some reason, we aspire to be an animal. I have no idea why. We want to be instinctive. If I want to do this, I don't want anyone to stop me. If I want to eat this, don't stop me. If I want to drink this, love her, love him, marry this person, eat here, go there, upload this, TikTok this, nobody should stop me. Nobody should stop me. I don't want anyone to come and tell me it's haram. Don't ask me. I'm not going to ask you. You know, these Q&As, I'm rolling my eyes in the back, blah, blah, blah. Even now, as I'm talking, people are like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So by blah, blah, blah. There'll come a time where you'll realize, I'll realize, there's a massive purpose going on. Everything, it seems, is moving towards a purpose. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Beautiful ayat of the Quran. For the ones who remember Allah, standing, sitting, وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ, lying on their side. And the ones who contemplate on what? خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, on the creation of the heavens and the earth. Right? I don't know about you guys, but sometimes maybe, if you're driving up north somewhere, some mountainous area, some waterfalls, a sunset, a nice sunrise, the sky is purple, you see the paintbrush of Allah, let's say, for example, you stop, you think, wow, look at that, that's a beautiful sight. Grab out the camera, right? For the gram, it's a beautiful gram moment, right? A gram moment. Turn around, selfie, stop and wonder for a moment. You're bound to ask yourself, who created all of this? And when that happens, the Quran says, you'll say, رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. There's no way that you created this precise universe for no apparent reason. Such precision, such accuracy, such beauty, such intelligent design in this universe. Everything is interdependent on everything else. My perfection is dependent on the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the rock kingdom, the sun, the moon, the stars, everything. Equally, the flower that is inside my backyard, if it wants to blossom to perfection, I have to give it water. I have to make sure I plant it properly. Its perfection is dependent on me, for example, right? A diamond coming out of the ground, let's say for that diamond is a perfect rock. The rock reaches its come on perfection when it's a jewel. That conversion of a rock into a jewel is through the miners. The miner has to do his job. You get my point. I mentioned the example in the first 10 days of the Ashra and my Toronto Ashra, that 1 grain of rice that we eat now on our table, on our plate, right? 1 grain of rice, think about how many people it had to get through to get to me. Where it came from in the fields, how it got to the stores, how it got to my fridge, to my pot, and then to my plate. How many people, how many elements now were involved in 1 grain of rice? Interdependence. All that for nothing? All this just by chance? Impossible. So if there's purpose outside of us, there's purpose inside of us. It can't be eat, sleep, work, repeat. Eat, sleep, study, repeat. Eat, sleep, play, repeat. It can't be that. It's got to be more. But right now we're stuck in this rut. And we think, you know what? I'm okay with eat, sleep, pray. Because eat, sleep, work, repeat. Because I wanted to include pray, I wanted to include God, but this person and this center and that alim and this scholar all took that away from me. So I'm going to present that in front of God. Say these are my excuses. Baba, let me give you a little bit of a secret, and let me tell you now, as an older brother of yours, that even shaitan as an excuse won't fly on the day of judgment. Shaitan himself, who flat out said, I will ambush them ila siratikal mustaqim, on your path, Allah. Even he will say, whoa, wait a second, homie. All I did was whisper to you. I didn't pull you. I don't have sultanate over you. I'm not some sultan over you to grab you by the wrist and drag you to the casino, or drag your ear and open it towards the music, for example, or sit there and force you, right, to create this disgusting TikTok video that you think you look good in and you don't. I'm sorry. All these things are there, and you think, oh, it's this guy's fault. He's like, whoa, I'm one little existence. 124,000 prophets also whispered at you. 12 imams whispered at you. The ulama whispered at you. In person, virtually, on Zoom, through a camera. Your parents whispered. Your friends whispered. The Quran whispered. All of that is on one side. Little old shaitan is on one side. And we're going to blame him. And I think that's going to fly? Sorry, not going to fly. We need to shake our core. Look around you. Go to the rooftop. Look at everything that's happening around you. That destruction of mankind, destruction of human values is everywhere. It's in our marriages, it's in our hearts, it's in our friendships, it's in our centers, and it's globally in every corner of the globe. If there's a fight in Yemen, a fight in Bahrain, there's a fight in Georgia. There's a fight in Baltimore. There's a fight in California. And we're just stuck on my grade 4 Dinya teacher. And we're stuck on some auntie asking me, why aren't I pregnant yet? If you have a problem, I have some medicine for you, my dear. But by now, I had 3 kids when I was your age. Good for you, auntie. Let's not use it as a crutch. Free yourself. And that's the word I'll use. Free yourself of that burden, of that weight. Carrying it around since you were, 14, 15 years old, carrying it around. Right? 11 videos to sit there and how to flip a burger on a barbecue grill. 10 YouTube videos on how to make sure that my Apple Watch matches my, right? Making sure what the new emojis are in iOS 14. All of that is there. That's all great, right? This TED Talk and that TED Talk and this, all of that is great. When it comes to the deen, no, man. The deen is the way it is when I was 15. Now that I'm 25, 10 years, nothing has gone. Why? I'm holding on to this anger at the fact that somebody came and slapped me on my wrist because, I said that there were 15 ma'sumin and not 14. And I'll say it one more time. I'm not condoning any of that behavior. The judgment by our elders, sometimes the way that our parents present God to our youth, sometimes the way our communities now treat our youth, that's a different topic altogether. And if I had 10 nights with you guys, I would sit there and I would pick on every single one. I'm an equal agitator. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. I upset the youth, I upset the elders, I upset the women, I upset everybody, mashallah. That's just Allah's tawfiq, and I'm thankful every day for that. I really am. Hashtag sarcasm. So my youth, please shake yourself before I do. Understand this idea that there is this golden voice inside of you. There are elements inside of you that are running towards piety, and we're stopping them. We're putting veils, one hurdle after one hurdle after one hurdle. Remove the hurdles and watch the heart fly towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Watch it fly towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Too many examples of that. Too many examples of that. Inshallah, tomorrow night, and I'll move towards Masad now, tomorrow night we'll talk about the idea, those elements inside of our youth today that sometimes make God proud. Reversing the script. Converting a God of fear to a God of love. Understanding small things like why we read Salat, why the Quran. These are things that all of you may know. But I feel like you're drowning in veils. Remove them one by one. They're anchors, they're barriers, they're hurdles. And there's elements inside of you that are screaming at you, I want more, I want more. The heart sometimes is so open, give me more, and then it closes at a disappointment when it's filled with nothing. Nothing but useless talk, nothing but gaming all day, nothing but TikTok videos. Then the heart, that disappointing or that anger or that sad emoji. When someone announces death in a community, you just say, ILIWR, and then you put a sad emoji, and I'm good to go. Right? So my brothers and my sisters, my youth out there, my beautiful, beautiful young people who can and are changing the world, believe in yourself. Okay? Heal yourself. If you're waiting for anyone to come to apologize to you and say sorry to you, and they haven't, then make up an excuse for them. Imam Ali says that when somebody has wronged you and they haven't apologized, create an apology for them. Because right now you're stunting your own growth, you're clipping your own wings, you're anchoring your own journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all should be, and we all are, a musafir towards Allah, a traveler towards Allah, and some are stuck in quicksand, others are now moving now, inch by inch towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Recognize where you are. Remove the barriers, remove the veils, allow that heart now when it's open to be confided in, as our 11th Imam says. When the heart is open, confide in, give it more. Give it more. Inshallah, that same heart now will become your wings towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the journey of the Ahlul Bayt now to protect this deen is very, very severe. It's very difficult. Imam Hussein's family, Imam Hussein's companions, Imam Hussein's son, Imam Hussein's sister now, all of them have given an immense amount of sacrifice and have been put in very difficult situations, all so you and I have a shot at this thing called Deen and Akhirat. I ask my sisters in the audience right now, the ones who are very strict in their hijab, if somebody was, let's say, for example, to post a picture of you without hijab on in the background on their social media, or somebody by mistake now posted a picture of you without a hijab on one of the other WhatsApp groups where there are non-mahram cousins of yours or non-mahram people of yours, or God forbid, somebody posts, let's say, a picture of you, a private picture of you by mistake, completely accidentally, on one of the SFK massive WhatsApp groups that have 200, 300 people on it, and for a split 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, you're a picture with you without a hijab on, without you covering your hair now, is seen by everybody and quickly deleted because you call the person, say, look, wrong group. Your heart will race. You feel ashamed. You feel for a moment, right? Imagine the heart of Zainab. We're in the month of Safar now. Imam Hussein's family have entered Sham now. And this journey from Karbala to Kufa to Sham has been a very difficult one. The entry into the courtyard of Yazid, Ya Allah, how did the daughter of Ali do it? This is the same Zainab, that Imam Ali went through so many lengths now to make sure that not one non-mahram ear or not one non-mahram eye would either hear her voice or her cry or would look upon her face. When sometimes he would take his family out to a trip in the outskirts of Kufa, he would wait until sometimes the sun would set for him to bring back his children into Kufa. So maybe in the darkness nobody could see Zainab Kulthum. He struck with the sword of Ibn Muljim. You've heard the Masaib every month of Ramadan. He struck with the sword of Ibn Muljim. The wound is fresh, the blood is fresh, the pain is fresh, the grief and the shock is fresh. On one side Hassan, on one side Hussein, his two sons, taking him now towards his house. Behind him his followers, behind him the orphans, behind him all of Kufa now. And they begin to cry and begin to wail and begin to announce now that he's been struck, Ali has been struck. But all Imam Ali could think about was Zainab. She's gonna see me in that house, and once she sees me, she can't control her emotions. Hassan, go inside and tell Zainab that I'm coming. Hussein, tell these people now to turn around. Baba, they're your loved ones. Baba, they're the orphans. Baba, they're your companions. It doesn't matter. I don't want a single one of them now to hear the cries of my Zainab. Imam Ali now would sit in his hujra, would sit in his special room now, where he would sit there now, bandaged up now, blood still pouring from his forehead. When Imam Hassan first saw him, he began to cry. Imam Ali says, Hassan, now's not the time to cry. When Hussein saw him, he began to cry. Hussein Jan, now's not the time to cry. But now Imam Ali sits there in his room, all alone. The door opens, and there stands Zainab, the zinat of her father, the beauty of her father, the heart of her father. Zainab now looks down to her father now, blood and poison there. She begins to cry. Imam Ali, when Hassan cried, don't cry. When Hussein cried, don't cry. But the moment that Ali saw the first tear of Zainab, my Mawla began to cry. Hey Mawla, say this now. Your Zainab now in the same Kufa and Sham is entering the Darbar of Yazid, is entering the Bazaar of Sham. One tear of Zainab and you couldn't bardasht that tear. You began to cry. Come to the Darbar of Yazid. That same Zainab of yours, that same Zinat of yours is entering the courtyard of Yazid. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept this qaleel or ibadat, inshallah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to give our youth, our beautiful youth, that tawfiq, inshallah, to be the ambassadors of the deen. We ask you, Allah, to weaken the hands of the enemies of humanity, to strengthen the mustazafin and the oppressed wherever they are in the world. We ask you, Allah, to please cure those who are struck with the COVID-19 virus, be it our equals in humanity or our brothers and sisters in faith. And finally, Allah, one dua we have in the month of Safar now, on this day of Friday, we ask you, Allah, please, to allow us to rise and to stand beside the Imam of our time when he comes. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. کسی بیمار کے ہونٹوں پہ رہا ایک ہی نام، کسی بیمار کے ہونٹوں پہ رہا ایک ہی نام، ہائے الشام، ہائے الشام، ہائے ہائے شام، ہائے ہائے شام، کسی بیمار کے ہونٹوں پہ رہا ایک ہی نام، نو کے نیزہ پا وہ قرآن سناتے ہوئے سر، اپنے چہروں کو بالوں سے چھپاتے ہوئے سر، اور اس حال میں پھر حبیبہ سے کلام، کسی بیمار کے ہونٹوں پہ رہا ایک ہی نام، 700 کرسی نشینوں سے بھرا ہو دربار، حرم شاہ کے ہمراہ وہ بے کس لاچار، اسی گھر کے گرجتے ہوئے لہجے کو سلام، کسی بیمار کے ہونٹوں پہ رہا ایک ہی نام، کسی بیمار کے ہونٹوں پہ رہا ایک ہی نام، تشت میں فرق شہدی پا وہ حاکم کی چھڑی، دل بیمار پا وہ لمحہ قیامت کی گھڑی، ضبط کی آخری حد پا امامت کا قیام، کسی بیمار کے ہونٹوں پہ رہا ایک ہی نام، کسی بیمار کے ہونٹوں پہ رہا ایک ہی نام، سب اسیروں کے لیے ایک اندھیرا زندان، اس اندھیرے میں تڑپ کر کسی بچی کا فغان، کس کو نیند آئے گی ایسے میں کہاں کا آرام، کسی بیمار کے ہونٹوں پہ رہا ایک ہی نام، رات کے پچھلے پہر باپ کو جو روتی تھی، مر گئی شام کے زنداں میں پھر وہی بچی، ایک بھائی پہ گزرتے رہے کیا کیا آلام، اسی بیمار کے ہونٹوں پہ رہا ایک ہی نام، کسی بیمار کے ہونٹوں پہ رہا ایک ہی نام، بعد عاشورا جو روتا رہا 35 برس، زہر شام سے مارا گیا آخر بے کس، آخری وقت بھی شاہد یہی کہتا تھا امام، کسی بیمار کے ہونٹوں پہ رہا ایک ہی نام، ہائے الشام، ہائے الشام، ہائے ہائے شام، ہائے ہائے شام، یا حسین، یا حسین، یا حسین۔